Hello everyone, thank you for joining today's session. My name's Kirstie Williams, I'm the Regional Head of Sales at GT Maritime. We wanted to pre-record a presentation for you which was going to deliver a little more information and some more detail on our new solution, GTDeploy. You may have noticed some content on social media and in industry press about the solution, and we wanted just to deliver some more detail and of course a demonstration to allow you guys to better understand the solution and ways you can apply it to help support your customers or of course ease operations on your vessels as well. Of course, this is pre-recorded and that does limit the ability for you to stop and ask questions. So what I would suggest is you make a note of those and direct them to your regional head of sales. So whoever is in your locality, make a note and direct your questions to them at the end, and they can come back with the relevant answers and some more detail for you as needed. Okay, so GTDeploy has really been born out of the inherent issue with maritime of trying to not only deploy, sort of initially deploy software to vessels and get it on board in a sort of streamlined and efficient fashion, but also the necessity to then keep that software or those software applications on board up to date. So what we see is that there is a problem with both sides of that. It could be in relation to the connection that you have, perhaps you're limited in the bandwidth, or maybe you are on a limited data package. Then there's also the updating that needs to be managed, and what we've seen is customers purchasing specific equipment in order to perhaps burn CDs or send USBs to agents as a way to look to support this process. And often that does also require some engineer attendance. So all in all, it can be quite a long and laborious process, quite inconvenient and obviously costly as well. What we're seeing more and more is that when these software products or different applications you may be running on board become out of date, not only does the performance of those solutions suffer, but what it means is that from a cybersecurity perspective, we're actually presenting vulnerabilities on board the vessel in having out-of-date versions of software on board. And of course, we need to try and do something about that. So this animation basically will cover what we're trying to achieve. It's something that we have shared previously on social media, and it just basically is a nice insight or summary overview of how we feel GTDeploy will be used and can be applied to your ships. Okay, so while we're talking about GTDeploy, we think it's probably useful for you guys to get a good understanding of the platform which GTDeploy is running on. So GTDeploy is the product. This is the solution that we're selling. However, underneath, or the sort of transfer platform that GTDeploy sits upon, is called Fastnet. So Fastnet is another development which is proprietary. It's all done within in-house at GT Maritime, and it's a data connectivity platform which we have built up from scratch. So based on all of the experience we've had in operating in this market, we've always focused on software for the last 21 years it is now, and we've tried to take all of that expertise and the information and knowledge we've picked up over that time and apply it to what we see to be the future-proofed way that data will be transferred and managed within our industry. So we've picked up key aspects from feedback we've taken from partners and customers about ways in which they would like to prioritize their work streams. So Fastnet has the capacity to allocate certain percentages of your overall bandwidth to work streams, so you can make sure that all of the data you need to flow, ship to shore and shore to ship, can do so in exactly the way you wish, taking up the percentage of bandwidth you would like based on your prioritization. We can then, of course, change that dynamically. If there was something you really needed to see urgently on shore, then we can change those work stream priorities to ensure you receive that data more quickly as needed. So as always, we're independent. This product or the platform itself will run on any sort of hardware, and of course is airtime independent as well. So we don't discriminate across connectivity, and you can choose whoever you would like as your provider when using any of our products. Fastnet is how we see the future of maritime data transfer, as I say. So moving forward, this will underpin all of the future products and services that come on the GT product roadmap as well. It forms a really key focus for us moving forward. Everything within Fastnet, as again with all of the GT products, is really highly secure, encrypted, and we want to maintain all of the integrity of your data as much as possible throughout these transfers. What it also will do is remove the need for VPNs. So again, what we're seeing across the industry is a trend in that customers feel that by using VPNs, they'll be able to streamline their data transfers. And actually what we see is that by using VPNs, actually they are almost puncturing holes into the network, which again really increases the attack surface. So it allows for points of ingress for cyber attacks, and means that you really are offering vulnerability. So we want to try and get away from that as well as much as possible. And lastly, Fastnet will also allow for third-party integration, so engine maintenance programs, etc., whereby providers may want access to specific data from on board your vessel. Rather than have them access the network directly, we would recommend that they access a platform in between, and Fastnet is perfect to do that in terms of just managing the amount of vendors or suppliers that have access to your network. It means that we can keep everything secure for you as much as possible. So back to GTDeploy, which is sitting on top of the Fastnet platform and is what is going to manage the automatic deployment of your software applications to the vessels, and then it allows you the ability to manage these proactively and deal with patch requirements as well. So as the points here state, it's all remote deployment. So after the initial configuration, we're not going to require user interaction. And it also means that you remove the necessity for the crew to interact with this process as well. Based on feedback that we've received from the market, we often find that wherever possible, our customers and partners would rather the crew focus not on this kind of task, maybe to stay away from the IT and try to remove intervention there as much as possible. So GTDeploy will also manage any additional libraries that are required on board to run your applications, the likes of .NET 4.6. So they will automatically be fetched and installed for you as well. This is really all about trying to save you some time, of course, the cost, and really make your lives easier in terms of how you manage the software on board your vessels, and overall allow you to focus your time more wisely, perhaps, in doing things that don't involve such manual intervention. Actually, this is probably a good point to mention that we actually have a man-hour calculator, which is specifically developed to help demonstrate how much time and therefore cost that we can potentially look to save you, depending on how many manual processes you are going through to try and update the applications on board. For example, what we see is that many customers have products on board such as PMS systems, and if these are undergoing biannual or quarterly updates, these can be fairly sizable data transfers. And something like our man-hour calculator is a really good way for us to help show you how, by automating this process and dealing with this proactively, to sort of break down the data and send in line with your priorities, which is what GTDeploy will do, can really help you out. So again, if you've got any interest in having a look at the man-hour calculator, then please do approach your local regional head of sales, and they'll be able to talk you through that process and make it clear for you. As with all of the GT Maritime products, security is really at the sort of focal point of everything we're doing. It's really a sort of mission for us, and all of our coding and the general development of our solutions focuses a lot around security and what we can do to make our solutions cyber secure by default. So it's automated. Again, as I've mentioned, we really want to streamline your processes and save you time to avoid manual updating and really try to minimize that crew interaction. We can prioritize for you here in terms of the software updates and requirements based on your airtime connectivity, or if you have an urgent need, then we can dynamically change the priorities or prioritization of the work streams set within this program. We're utilising Fastnet. Again, as I mentioned earlier, is how we really see the future of data transfer. So it's a way to get information ship to shore and shore to ship in the absence of email. So we can really focus on allowing email to do what it was really developed to do. So the system's highly flexible and really easy to use. It's a one-time configuration, and it allows you, of course, to remotely deal with the software updates. And based on the experience that we have, of course, in managing software in line with the sometimes what can be limiting connections within the maritime market, we've worked a lot on compression and optimization to make sure that we're doing everything we can to really offer efficiencies in the way this data is transferred. Okay, so this is basically to show you deploy at work, a network diagram which shows you how, if we break down the system, what's under the hood and how the program is pieced together. So I'll just leave this here for a second to allow you to digest this. And then I'm going to pass over to Rob Preston, who is our technical sales engineer. So he is going to deliver a little more information on the look and feel of the product, perhaps talk through some user cases, and also the dashboard interface to show you some of the functionality which is there, again, really to help you focus and streamline your operations, the drag and drop functionality, etc.
Hello and welcome to this demonstration of GTDeploy. Here on screen we have the GTDeploy dashboard, which we will be using to deploy a software application remotely to our vessels. First we will start with the vessels menu. On the vessels menu you will have a list of the various different vessels within our fleet. Towards the left hand side of the vessels we have this option of tags. The tags is a very powerful feature which allows for the flexibility of this solution. If I draw your attention to the Fastnet Client 2, which is the third vessel on the right hand side of the screen, we can see this vessel has a number of different tags associated with it. We have the tag of vessel type, and we also have the tag of SATCOM. You can utilise any different tag you want here. This list of tags is not the exhaustive list. You can customise these to be whatever you want. However, as part of this example, we will concentrate on the vessel type and also the SATCOM equipment. Utilising these tags, we can customise exactly where we want the software to be deployed to. So as an example, let's say we have a software application and we only want to deploy it to a tanker vessel where they have VSAT. This is where we would use those two relevant tags. Or we might want to decide, I only want this piece of software to go to machines running the operating system of Windows 10, for example. And then when utilizing these tags, we can customize it unique to our individual requirements. Throughout this demonstration, we will just simply be using the tag of test for simplicity. So we will concentrate on this fastnet client 1, and what I will do is I will drag this tag of test to this vessel. If I now click into that vessel, we will see a list of the different endpoints. These are the different PCs running the GTDeploy software. We can see the IP address of that machine, the host name of that machine, and also the MAC address of that machine. If I click into that individual machine, we will then see the tags associated to that. So we can see this fastnet client 1 has the tag of test, and also the vessel has that tag of test. We can assign multiple different tags here if we choose to. However, we are just going to leave this as test for simplicity. Next, we will proceed to the software menu. On the software menu, you will have your repository for your software. There are two repositories listed here. There is a private repository, which is personal to you, where you can upload your software to. There is also a public repository where GT Maritime will upload software that you can consume. To add another application to the private repository, we simply click on the add icon and then we fill in the form on screen. So we'll start with the general option. We will choose the type. There is the option for data file or an installer. During this demonstration, I will be uploading the Notepad++ installer, so I will select the type of installer. Then I will enter a name. I'll just call this NPP for short, give it a description and a version number. If we were uploading a second update to this, we might change the version number to version 2 and then version 3 and so on through the different iterations. Next, we will select the dependency. So the system supports for dependency resolution. So if your particular application requires any additional libraries, for example, the .NET framework, the system will automatically fetch and install them for you as part of the process. However, Notepad++ does not require any dependencies, so I leave this option as disabled. Next, we will select installer argument. So for the Notepad++ installer, we will use /S for silent install. Then we will go to tags. So because we are deploying to that machine which had the tag of test and also the vessel with the tag of test, we'll simply drag that here. If I wanted to deploy to that tanker vessel that was using VSAT, I may drag those two relevant tags across. Next, we will look at the pre and post install script. What we can do with the pre and post install script is interact with third-party systems before or after the job executes. We may use a pre-install batch file to, for example, stop a service on a third-party application. Or we might use a post-install script to do a cleanup routine or start a service for another application. And it will do that as part of this process. Next, we have files. This is where we will upload the installer. So we'll click on Browse. Then we will select our installation file and then click Open and then click on Upload. We can upload multiple different files here at once if required. Then we will click on Add to complete the process. You will see at the bottom of the page we have the Notepad++ deployment that is pending. So the system is currently building this ready for deployment. Next, we will proceed to the deployment screen. If we scroll down the deployment screen, we will see that relevant Notepad++ installer is pending deployment. Once we click on Deploy, the system will now dispatch that deployment to the vessel. Following the deployment to the vessel, we can now go to the installation page. On the installation page, you will see the pending installations are waiting here. So we can choose to send the install trigger at the same time as the deployment, or we can do this at a later time. So for example, you might want to Set the deployment to trigger on a Friday afternoon to allow it to slowly transfer across the weekend. And then on a Monday morning, you will then proceed to do the installation at a later time. As part of this demonstration though, we will simply send the install trigger along with the download. So if I click on install, that will begin sending that trigger now. We will also send a second installer whilst we are waiting for that download. So if we go to the software page, and I will now drag this tag of test to the Chrome installer. Then I will go to the deployment option and I will click on deploy for the Chrome installer. And then finally I will go to installation and I will click on install. On board the vessel we have the Fastnet client dashboard, which we can monitor the progress as the software is downloading. Once we select that transfer, we can see more detailed information on the screen. So we can see on here the progress as it's downloading. We can monitor any errors. The Fastnet transport mechanism that is used here has built-in error handling. You'll be able to monitor any errors that are on screen, and as any errors are produced, the system will try to overcome this, and it will do some clever things like resizing that block size so it can try and efficiently get those errors through, and it will do the retransmissions where required. The transport mechanism that is used here, what this does, you will notice in the top right hand corner of the screen in the File Explorer there are individual small pieces of that file. The system is basically splitting that file into small pieces so it can efficiently transfer it over the air. There is no size limitation with what is available to be sent using Fastnet. So you have basically no limit. The system will simply split that file into small pieces to efficiently transfer it over the satellite communications. And this session is highly optimized. So for example, if we have a break during that transfer, the system will simply pause it. When a connection resumes, it will resume at the point of the interruption. It will not reduplicate any of that same data sent twice. So during that process of that large download, we can actually see at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, we have the logging of the previous installation. So we can see here in this log file, this pending Notepad++ installer. And in the following line, it says doing install, and then it run the relevant switches for the application. So if I now look into my start menu, I should see the Notepad++ has already been completed. And that had automatically completed in the background as we were performing that secondary download. Thank you for observing this presentation today. If you do have any further questions, please don't hesitate to ask.
And this last slide is again, it's really a summary to show what we recognise to be the real benefits of working with GT Maritime as a partner. Some of you may well be active partners of GT and be experiencing these benefits. And for anybody that's new to working with GT, of course, we operate a 24/7 by 365 support line based across the UK and Singapore as well. Cybersecurity, again, as I've mentioned, is really key for us. By being a partner of GT Maritime, what we hope you can achieve is really the capacity to be a one-stop shop or a one-stop service provider by working with us from a software perspective to really build your value adds portfolio and then pair that in proposals with your airtime offerings. It really gives a nice range of options to your customers. From an infrastructure perspective, all of our products are based within AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. So this infrastructure is not only very highly secure, but it's highly flexible and scalable. So based on demand across the network, we can grow and shrink our infrastructure accordingly. So that offers a lot in terms of really optimizing the experience that the users are getting there. And whilst our uptime SLAs are about 99.5%, we actually, for the last 2 years now consecutively, have been running at 100% uptime, which in maritime is quite unheard of and something that we are really proud of. Product and marketing. So we have a really active product management forum. We always encourage feedback from our customers and partners, and where we can look to building new features and functionality to meet your needs, we will do that. We've got an agile approach to software deployment, and we actually roll out software deployments every week to ensure that we're delivering something new, or perhaps optimizations or maintenance every single week. And that really builds on our mission for continuous improvement to make sure that we're always researching and meeting the needs of the customers, and that we understand the evolving trends in our market. So I think that's about it, really. Thank you very much again for your time. I hope you found that the session was informative. I'm sure there may be some questions, and I hope that you had a chance to note those down. Please do send them in to us, and we can get back to you as soon as possible. And if you feel you would benefit from a second demonstration, then we are more than happy to do that for you as well. Thanks.